An uncontrollable stir erupted among the Tao sect disciples as they looked pale-faced at the distant figure, disbelief filling their eyes. Zhou Tong? How is that possible? EngSubs also cried out in shock, her delicate hand clenched tightly as she muttered, "Senior brother Zhou Tong clearly died at the hands of the Yuan sect a century ago. How can he still be alive?" Beside her, EngSubs' body was trembling uncontrollably, his expression changing rapidly as if his mind was in utter turmoil, shocked beyond measure by the sight before him. Lin Dong looked at the Tao sect disciples, who were in an uproar, his brows knitting slightly and his gaze growing solemn. 100 years ago, in the eyes of Tao sect disciples, Zhou Tong's status was perhaps as significant as his own now. Even Lin Dong, when he first entered the Tao sect, had secretly regarded this senior brother Zhou Tong as a target to strive toward. He surpassed Zhou Tong's records one by one, eventually rising to fame within the Tao sect. He simply didn't want there to be something on his cultivation path that he could never overcome. Every era has its own legend. Clearly, a century ago, Zhou Tong was the Tao sect's legend. He had also mastered the profoundly mysterious Great Wilderness Scripture, leading Tao sect disciples to challenge the Yuan sect fiercely at the sect conference. In the end, he even stormed the Yuan sect alone. Although he fell, his name was forever engraved in the hearts of all Tao sect disciples, leaving a mark on the Eastern Mystery region. Now, this legendary figure of the Tao sect had reappeared, alive, and standing on the opposing side. At this moment, the collapse of that once revered figure caused the morale of many Tao sect disciples to wane. "It really is senior brother Zhou Tong," Huan said softly, her ice-blue eyes fixed intensely on that distant figure, her gaze complex. She, too, had once admired this senior brother Zhou Tong. Zhou Tong? You're still alive?" EngSubs stared intently at that familiar figure, a slight tremor in his voice. "Heh, what a touching scene," Yuan sneered. "EngSubs, your proudest disciple, once the legendary figure in the hearts of countless Tao sect disciples, now stands with us in the Yuan sect. Do you find it laughable?" "Why?" EngSubs roared, his whole body trembling. Upon hearing his outburst, Zhou Tong's lips moved as if he wanted to say something but could not utter a single word. "You traitor!" EngSubs' face seemed to age visibly in that instant. Beside him, EngSubs quickly stepped forward to support him, while the other Tao sect disciples, once high-spirited, stood stunned by the scene. Lin Dong, observing this sudden change, furrowed his brows even more deeply, his sharp gaze locked onto Zhou Tong. After a long silence, he spoke slowly, "Senior brother Zhou Tong, I suspect that the man you are now is no longer truly yourself." Zhou Tong's body seemed to tense briefly. He then turned his gaze to Lin Dong, remaining silent, though a faint ripple seemed to flicker in his eyes. "No matter how you've come to be like this, we Tao sect disciples will always remember the Zhou Tong who once dared to challenge the Yuan sect alone for the Tao sect's sake. I believe that what's happening now isn't your true will." Lin Dong's slightly hoarse voice spread, gradually calming the restless Tao sect disciples. Many began to regain their composure. With Zhou Tong's character, could he really align with the Yuan sect? There had to be more to this. Zhou Tong's gaze lingered on Lin Dong for a long moment. As a gentle breeze swept through, his long hair stirred, and tears fell silently down his handsome face. His body trembled violently, as if he were struggling against something, and from his lips came an almost inaudible, hoarse voice. "Master!" That hoarse word carried an endless despair. EngSubs froze, staring at Zhou Tong's struggling form, and in that instant, seemed to grasp something. His once steady gaze turned fierce as he glared at Yuan, roaring, "What have you done to him?" Yuan's brows knitted slightly as he glanced at Zhou Tong, then snorted coldly. "Your disciple certainly has an exceptionally resilient mind. To endure a century of torment and still retain a trace of clarity. Heh, I didn't do much, really," Yuan said with a faint smile. "It was just too good an opportunity to pass up, so I helped him shift his loyalty from Tao sect to Yuan sect instead." EngSubs' face twisted with fury. He never expected his prized disciple, whom he cherished as a son, to have suffered such torment at the hands of Yuan's sect for 100 years. I'll kill you. With a roar, EngSubs unleashed a vast surge of primordial energy, and in an instant, he lunged at Yuan, his powerful strike hurtling forward like a bolt of lightning. Seeing this, Yuan merely smirked eerily. Zhou Tong, it seems your master can't hold back. Why don't you, his disciple, go teach him a lesson in composure? Whoosh! At Yuan's command, Zhou Tong shot forward, appearing ghost-like before EngSubs. As he raised his hand, the very fabric of space twisted and seemed to solidify under his control. Boom! EngSubs' fierce attack collided against this solidified space, sending him flying backward. Zhou Tong then took a step forward, reappearing before EngSubs and extending a finger aimed directly at his forehead, striking with ruthless precision. "Father!" gasped Xiao and the others, their faces paling as they watched EngSubs fall into a dire situation in just 2 moves. Slash! Zhou Tong's fingertip, glowing with a silvery light as sharp as a blade, closed in on EngSubs' forehead. But just as it was about to strike, a vast spiritual force suddenly gathered in front of EngSubs, forming a protective barrier. Though the barrier held only for an instant, when Zhou Tong's finger pierced through it, a black-tinted, sharp beam of light shot from behind EngSubs, colliding heavily with Zhou Tong's attack. Screech! The 2 beams met, surprisingly without an explosion of energy, yet the space around them seemed to crumble inwardly from the impact. Hiss! Both figures trembled and retreated several steps. "So, it turns out the space ancestral talisman is in your possession," Lin Dong said, casting Zhou Tong an intrigued glance. During their clash, Zhou Tong had wielded the power of the space ancestral talisman, a strength far superior to what Yuan had shown a few days prior. It was now clear that the space ancestral talisman didn't belong to Yuan, but to Zhou Tong. Zhou Tong said nothing, yet his gaze lingered on the now-aged EngSubs, where a hint of unspoken sorrow and bitterness flickered deep within. "Sect Master, senior brother Zhou Tong is no longer himself," Lin Dong sighed softly. EngSubs' hands clenched tightly. After a long silence, he nodded slowly, his expression one of aged resignation. "I was too reckless." Seeing EngSubs' despondence, Lin Dong felt a pang of sympathy, but he quickly steeled himself, raising a cold, determined gaze at Yuan and his companions. "Don't worry, Sect Master. I will make them pay." "Everything is in your hands," EngSubs nodded, understanding that he could no longer control the situation. "Heh, unless you deal with Zhou Tong, he won't let you make a move against Yuan's sect," Yuan said with a detached smile. "With so many powerhouses from the Eastern Mystery region present, it seems we're in for quite a show, a fierce inner clash within Dao sect." "You old dog, mark my words," Lin Dong sneered at Yuan, his gaze icy. "Once I capture you, I'll make sure you beg for death." "Oh, is that so?" Yuan's eyes glinted with murderous intent as he swept his sleeve. "Zhou Tong, this is Lin Dong, Dao sect's rising star after you. He's even more formidable than you were. Go on, test his strength, and if possible, kill him." However, at Yuan's command, Zhou Tong remained unmoving, silver light flickering chaotically in his eyes. "Still resisting? Foolish." With a cold snort, Yuan clenched his hand, causing a gray mist to surge through Zhou Tong's eyes, swallowing the silver light with alarming speed. Zhou Tong's body trembled violently, sweat pouring from his face as he bit down hard, blood seeping from his mouth, making his expression look even more grim. "You wretched dog." Seeing Yuan force Zhou Tong into such agony, Lin Dong's eyes flashed with fury. The attack was intercepted, and Zhou Tong's figure shifted, twisting through space as he reappeared in the air above Lin Dong's right. His 10 fingers flicked from within his sleeves, causing spatial distortions as countless silver beams of light streaked down like a violent storm. These were space blades, condensed from the power of space itself, beautiful to behold, yet sharp enough to tear through the body of a revolution stage powerhouse. Lin Dong swiftly retreated, pressing his palms together to conjure a rapidly expanding black hole in front of him. The black hole absorbed every one of the incoming space blades, swallowing them whole. As the last of the space blades disappeared into the black hole, Lin Dong lunged forward, the Thunder Emperor staff in his hand radiating crackling lightning. With each strike, he unleashed fierce staff shadows, all aimed at Zhou Tong's vital points with devastating force. Hiss, hiss. Facing Lin Dong's swift counterattack, Zhou Tong's body twisted, using spatial distortion to evade every staff shadow targeting his vital points. His precise dodging even caught Lin Dong off guard, showcasing the profound mystery of the space ancestral talisman. In the sky above, the two figures clashed dozens of times within mere seconds. Each strike was fierce, yet both managed to counter the other completely. The intensity of the battle left onlookers with heavy expressions. Few in the entire Eastern Mystery region could rival these two in power. To think that Senior Zhou Tong's strength is at such a level, EngSubs remarked, her face tense as she watched the aerial duel. This is just the beginning, EngHuan replied softly. One wields the Devouring and Thunder ancestral talismans, while the other has the Space ancestral talisman. This battle is far beyond what ordinary top-tier reincarnation powerhouses can handle. I hope Lin Dong can send Senior Zhou Tong on his way. Better that than falling into the control of the Yuan Sect, which would be worse than death, EngSubs sighed, her face tinged with anger. This time, they will pay the price. Cold light flickered in EngHuan's icy blue eyes, her killing intent stirred by the Yuan Sect's actions. Roar. A dragon's roar suddenly echoed from above. Lin Dong retreated, thousands of purple-gold dragon patterns surging around him, transforming into a colossal purple-gold dragon claw that struck furiously toward Zhou Tong. Whoosh! Zhou Tong's figure flickered, reappearing in another part of the sky. From his sleeves emerged hands encased in black, spiked gauntlets, which clenched together, distorting the space in front of him. In an instant, the space transformed into an enormous 1,000-foot-long spatial blade. Boom! Gripping the space blade tightly, Zhou Tong brought it down furiously, cleaving it directly into the oncoming purple-gold dragon claw. Clang! A piercing sound reverberated as silver light blossomed from the space blade, emanating a sharpness so intense it seemed capable of slicing space itself. The space blade carved through the dragon claw, leaving a mirror-smooth cut in its wake, astonishing the crowd. What a powerful space ancestral talisman! Lu Qing watched with a grave expression. As a practitioner of the Azure Sky Dragon transformation art, he understood how formidable the dragon form condensed from dragon patterns could be. Furthermore, with Lin Dong's Desolation Dragon Bone strengthening his technique, it was an even fiercer force. Yet, it was still cleaved by the space blade. An impressive feat. This Zhou Tong is indeed remarkable, but don't underestimate Brother Lin Dong. That kid is beyond even my understanding now, Elder Julie remarked, his gaze sharp as he watched the sky. Lu Qing nodded slightly. Though only a step away from the reincarnation stage himself, he could still sense the dangerous aura emanating from Lin Dong. Just as Zhou Tong prepared to press his advantage, a beam of light suddenly shot out from behind the severed dragon claw. In a flash, it appeared before him. A purple-gold scaled fist, laced with faint traces of reincarnation energy, smashing down furiously. Whoosh! The attack was too sudden, causing even Zhou Tong to pause momentarily. However, just as Lin Dong's purple-gold fist was about to strike him, Zhou Tong's figure blurred and faded away. Lin Dong's fist pierced through an afterimage, missing its mark, but his gaze remained steady. The instant Zhou Tong's figure blurred, Lin Dong twisted his wrist, conjuring a massive black hole that expanded rapidly. The force of devouring erupted, tearing apart the surrounding space. Bang! As the black hole fractured the space, a figure emerged from the shattered void. Above the horizon, dark thunderclouds quickly gathered, and a massive, ferocious thunder dragon shot down, its claws outstretched. Lin Dong's palm clenched, and the thunder dragon transformed into a flowing bolt of lightning, wrapping around his arm. Swish! Everything happened in the blink of an eye. As the thunder struck, Lin Dong had already appeared before Zhou Tong, whose body had been torn apart by the consuming power of the black hole. Without a moment's hesitation, Lin Dong's arm, flowing with thunderous energy, pierced the air like a bolt of lightning, tearing through the sky as it smashed forward. The thunder light rapidly enlarged in Zhou Tong's dark, grayish eyes. At this point, even with the space ancestral talisman in his possession, he could not avoid the blow. Boom! The lightning-charged arm struck Zhou Tong's body. With a muffled thud, Lin Dong's arm shot through Zhou Tong's chest, and the violent surge of thunder erupted, causing the black robe on Zhou Tong's body to disintegrate into ash in an instant. As the robe turned to dust, Lin Dong's pupils shrank suddenly. Behind him, a chorus of astonished exclamations erupted. This is... Lin Dong's gaze fell on Zhou Tong's body, and his pupils constricted in shock. Underneath the black robe, it wasn't the expected flesh and blood, but rather a black skeletal structure. Upon closer inspection, Lin Dong could see strange, intricate black patterns crawling across the bones. These demonic runes coiled tightly around the skeleton, like maggots burrowing into the flesh, and they seemed impossible to remove. Within the black skeleton, Lin Dong could also see the still-beating organs. However, these organs had turned pitch black, clearly a result of being corrupted by demonic energy. What shocked Lin Dong the most was the black heart inside Zhou Tong's chest. It beat slowly and steadily, exuding an aura of extreme evil. No one could have expected such a horrifying sight beneath a seemingly normal head. Inside that strange body, Lin Dong could make out complex meridians, within which silver light flowed. That was the power of the space ancestral talisman. Looking at Zhou Tong's body, the only part that hadn't been corrupted by demonic energy were these meridians. This was likely the reason why he could still wield the power of the space ancestral talisman. The black demonic runes twisted and writhed inside Zhou Tong's body, almost forming a kind of malevolent demonic lock. It was this lock that had transformed Zhou Tong into his current state. This is the Demon Emperor's lock? Yuan's shocked voice suddenly rang out in Lin Dong's mind. The Demon Emperor's lock? What is that? Lin Dong frowned and quickly asked. In ancient times, it was a cruel method created by the alien Demon Emperor, who was a match for your master. This thing, once placed on a person's body, would gradually erode their mind and lock their essence spirit inside the body, trapping them forever. They wouldn't even be able to undergo reincarnation. The alien demons, fearing that reincarnation stage powerhouses would break free, used this lock on any captured reincarnation experts, cutting off all their chances for revival. A method created by the alien Demon Emperor, and it can even block the reincarnation of powerful beings. Lin Dong's pupils contracted as he felt a chill run through him. This method is incredibly cruel. It strips away the flesh, corrodes the organs with demonic energy for decades, and then uses the demonic body as a lock, severing all vitality. Yuan said gravely, although the Demon Emperor's lock isn't complete like in ancient times, it's still not something an ordinary alien demon king could create. It seems the Yuan sect really is colluding with the demon prison. These bastards! Lin Dong's eyes burned with fury. No wonder Zhou Tong had clung to his last shred of will, seeking death. It seemed he could no longer bear such torment. Yin, is there any way to save brother Zhou Tong? Lin Dong asked urgently. Anyone who has been afflicted by the Demon Emperor's lock is doomed to die, and they can't even enter reincarnation. However, Yin paused, then continued, Zhou Tong is different. He possesses the space ancestral talisman, and his essence spirit is likely protected by the talisman, preventing complete corruption by the demonic energy. If we can destroy this demonic body, maybe we can save his essence spirit. Destroy the demonic body? Lin Dong's eyes flashed. Whoosh! The conversation between Lin Dong and Yin seemed to stretch on, but in reality, it passed in an instant. By the time the stunned voices erupted from behind, Zhou Tong, still expressionless, had already raised a hand, clad in a black gauntlet, and silver light flickered across his palm. Then, space twisted, and a sharp gust of wind shot toward Lin Dong's throat. Boom! Brilliant thunder erupted from Lin Dong's palm, and he swiftly struck back with his other hand, meeting the silver light head-on. The thunder arcs jumped and completely neutralized the spatial power. Lin Dong twisted his body, appearing behind Zhou Tong. Primordial energy surged wildly as his ferocious fist unleashed a barrage of dragon-like roars, crashing down hard on Zhou Tong's body. Clang, clang, clang. Yet, despite Lin Dong's fierce assault, Zhou Tong's blackened bones erupted with sparks, completely unscathed by the attacks. Boom, boom, boom. Zhou Tong quickly turned, releasing a flash of silver light, his razor-sharp palm wind whistling out to clash head-on with Lin Dong. Violent shockwaves burst forth as their punches and strikes collided, shattering the surrounding space. Bang! In a fierce exchange, the swirling primordial energy forced both of them back. However, it was clear that Lin Dong held the upper hand in this brute force contest. After all, the combined power of two ancestral talismans was indeed more formidable than Zhou Tong's single-space ancestral talisman. Humph! From afar, Tian Yuanzi sneered as he saw Zhou Tong losing ground. His eyes flashed darkly, and Zhou Tong's body began to tremble uncontrollably. He then thrust his palm downward from a distance, sending a peculiar energy wave into the earth below. To everyone's astonishment, the ground began to wither and decay at an astonishing speed. The Great Wilderness Scripture? Recognizing this familiar sight, EngSubs and others exclaimed in shock. Their gazes were complex as they realized that, even under control, Zhou Tong could still wield the Wild Hall's most powerful martial art of Dao Sect. In that case, Senior Zhou Tong, let's see whose Great Wilderness Scripture is stronger. A glint flashed in Lin Dong's eyes as he swiftly formed hand seals, pressing his hands toward the ground below. His low, commanding voice rang out, "Great Wilderness Scripture." The land below decayed at an even faster rate, as the desolation aura spread swiftly across the earth. Within moments, several thousand miles were reduced to barren land, leaving onlookers in awe of such devastating martial power. In the sky, Lin Dong and Zhou Tong faced each other, their hands hovering over the ground. Although they seemed still, everyone could feel the violent energy churning in the air. The intensity of this energy was even more ferocious beneath the ground, where everyone could sense the earth quaking. All the power within thousands of miles was converging here, with both combatants vying for control. In the center between them, a patch of lush green grass sprouted, full of life amidst the surrounding desolation. This sight stirred complex emotions in EngShuanzi, EngSubs, EngHuanHuan, and other Dao Sect members. They understood that this was a contest between the two most outstanding disciples Dao Sect had produced in centuries. In the hearts of Dao Sect disciples, one was a legend of the past, while the other was the legend of today. Yet, today, these two legends would determine who was superior. Hum. The desolate earth quaked as if experiencing an earthquake. Faint glimmers of light seeped from deep underground, and the violent energy below threatened to erupt uncontrollably. Phew! Lin Dong took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on Zhou Tong in the distance, a slight smile appearing on his face. Senior Zhou Tong, it seems that this time, I will emerge victorious. As his voice fell, black vortexes formed in his pupils, and dark light surged from his palms, transforming into two enormous black holes. A powerful devouring force erupted forth. Boom! The ground shattered as a massive energy pillar, thousands of feet tall, erupted like a volcano, tearing through the clouds. Boom! As Lin Dong forcibly drew out this energy, another energy pillar shot up beneath Zhou Tong. However, Zhou Tong's energy pillar was half as thin as Lin Dong's. Clearly, Zhou Tong was no match for Lin Dong in absorbing energy. With the Great Wilderness Scripture combined with the devouring ancestral talisman, Lin Dong's forceful draw far surpassed Zhou Tong's abilities. This disparity drew gasps from the audience, while EngSubs and others clenched their fists, joy lighting their faces. Boom! The towering energy pillar spiraled in the sky, then shot straight toward Zhou Tong without hesitation, tearing through the void. Since there was no way to evade it, a gray glint flashed across Zhou Tong's eyes. With a sudden stomp of his foot, the massive column of energy surrounding him surged forth, streaking across the sky like a bright, unyielding ribbon. It collided fiercely with the colossal energy pillar many times its size. Boom! An indescribable explosion echoed across the sky, reaching even 1,000 miles away. The terrifying shockwave sent both armies into chaos, horses rearing and soldiers falling. The strongest fighters, able to withstand the impact, kept their eyes locked on the clashing pillars. Space itself fractured where the energies met. Swish! Just as their focus sharpened, their pupils contracted. A figure burst out from within the pillar of light, emitting a low roar. From his hands, a massive black vortex spread, and in a powerful twist, he forced the two volatile energy beams to intertwine. Lin Dong held the massive, near 10,000-foot energy column, veins bulging across his arms. Summoning all his strength, he swung it and smashed it down upon Zhou Tong with furious intensity. Boom! The energy pillar descended, and the ground below, spanning 10,000 feet, shattered upon impact. Seeing Lin Dong's overwhelming momentum, Tian Yuan's expression shifted. He began to signal Zhou Tong to retaliate with full force, only to realize that Zhou Tong was utterly motionless. Damn it! Startled, Tian Yuan noticed a glint of silver flash in Zhou Tong's previously gray eyes. Zhou Tong's body shook violently, clearly resisting Tian Yuan's control with every fiber of his being. Although brief, this struggle was enough. As the silver light in his eyes was forced out once more, Zhou Tong saw the massive energy column swinging towards him. For the first time, a faint smile of relief and contentment appeared on his usually emotionless face. Lin Dong, junior brother, Yuan. Thank you. As he whispered in his heart, the terrifying energy engulfed him completely under countless eyes. Blazing light surged like a rising sun, flooding the sky. People squinted from the brightness, their eyes stinging, yet they forced themselves to keep watching. Everyone was desperate to know which of the Dao Sect legends had emerged victorious. EngSubs' gaze was fixed on the sky. With his strength, he could clearly see the scene within the raging energy. He watched as the overwhelming energy pillar descended like a heavenly spear, crashing onto Zhou Tong's body. That sheer destructive power would be impossible to withstand, even for a reincarnation stage powerhouse. Crack! The violent energy surged like a tidal wave, slamming against Zhou Tong's black skeletal body. Space around him shattered, and a small crack quietly appeared on his blackened bones. Crack, crack. Although tiny, the crack triggered a chain reaction. The toughened demonic body that even Lin Dong couldn't previously damage began to splinter. In mere seconds, fractures spread across Zhou Tong's entire form. Thick, sinister demonic aura leaked from the fractures, but the immense energy evaporated it all. As the demonic aura dissipated, a gentle smile appeared on Zhou Tong's face. The violent energy struck again, and his body finally shattered. The energy pillar tore through, crashing into the distant earth. The ground quaked as a vast, 10,000-foot chasm ripped through the land, leveling an entire mountain range. Countless eyes turned skyward, just in time to see Zhou Tong's body disintegrate completely. A collective shiver ran through them. Had the outcome of the battle finally been decided? A thin mist of black smoke lingered where Zhou Tong's body had vanished, void of any life force. Zhou Tong seemed to have been erased entirely. Many disciples of Dao Sect watched with complicated emotions, sighing bitterly. Although Lin Dong had won, there was little joy in their hearts. Instead, their hatred for the Yuan Sect deepened. If not for those Yuan Sect fiends, Lin Dong would never have had to face Zhou Tong, leading to this tragic clash between Sect brothers. In the sky, Lin Dong was also staring at the black mist, his hand clenched tightly as a hint of nervousness lingered in his heart. According to Yuan, as long as the demonic body was destroyed, Zhou Tong's essence spirit should be able to escape. But now, could it be that he had been too heavy-handed, wiping out Zhou Tong's essence spirit in the process? Don't worry, wait a bit longer. He has the space ancestral talisman protecting him. He shouldn't be so fragile. Yan's voice sounded in Lin Dong's mind. Yet Lin Dong could detect a trace of uncertainty in Yan's tone, clearly indicating that even Yin wasn't entirely confident Zhou Tong would survive. Although feeling somewhat anxious, Lin Dong knew that such emotions wouldn't help the situation. He gradually calmed his mind and fixed his gaze firmly on the drifting black mist. The black mist floated in midair without any noticeable movement. Just as Lin Dong was about to lose patience, his eyes narrowed sharply as a flash of silver light suddenly appeared within the mist. Within that silver glow, a faint trace of golden light could be seen, almost imperceptible, wrapped in the silver light as it shot out from the black mist. Trying to escape? Just as the silver light appeared, Tian Yuanzi's eyes flashed coldly. He formed a seal with one hand and shouted, "Demon Emperor's Lock." Buzz. The previously dormant black mist suddenly erupted with demonic aura, transforming into countless black threads that wove together to form an immensely sinister demonic lock, attempting to entrap the silver light once more. Lin Dong, act quickly. If the Demon Emperor's Lock ensnares the space ancestral talisman again, Zhou Tong's remaining essence spirit won't survive. Yan's urgent voice echoed in Lin Dong's mind. The moment Yan's words fell, Lin Dong sprang into action. Although uncertain about the exact nature of the situation, he could sense the imminent danger to Zhou Tong. Sizzle! Almost instantly, black lightning surged from Lin Dong's arm, transforming his arm into a fluid-like black thunder. He thrust his hand out, piercing through the sinister demonic lock and seizing the silver light. Seeing Lin Dong's intervention, Tian Yuanzi's expression turned dark. Changing his hand seal, he redirected the Demon Emperor's Lock to fiercely erode Lin Dong's arm. Get lost. Lin Dong's eyes turned icy. The power of two ancestral talismans surged forth from his arm, shattering the Demon Emperor's Lock with sheer force. Years ago, Yuan's Sect managed to place the Demon Emperor's Lock on Zhou Tong after capturing him. But Lin Dong was now at peak battle strength, possessing not only two ancestral talismans, but also the ancestral stone and other powerful items to suppress alien demons. Tian Yuanzi's attempt to trap him was nothing short of wishful thinking. Lin Dong's liquid-like arm instantly retracted from the Demon Emperor's Lock. With a wave of his sleeve, a gentle white light enveloped the lock. Sizzle. Under the radiance of the white light, the Demon Emperor's Lock emitted a sizzling sound and quickly dissolved into nothingness. Seeing the lock destroyed, Lin Dong let out a sigh of relief and turned his cold gaze to Tian Yuanzi in the distance, his eyes brimming with killing intent. The glow on Lin Dong's arm gradually faded as it returned to normal. Opening his palm, a sphere of silver light flickered, emitting an ancient resonance. It was the space ancestral talisman. The silver light pulsed faintly, and then, within the depths of that light, a faint golden glow slowly rose. Zhou Tong's remaining essence spirit. Though Zhou Tong's essence spirit was shielded by the space ancestral talisman, it was clearly severely injured. The golden glow was dim, devoid of any sign of vitality. His essence spirit is too severely injured. I'll place him in the ancestral stone for recuperation. With his cultivation level, as long as the essence spirit remains, restoring his physical form won't be difficult, Yin suggested. All right. Lin Dong nodded, and a gentle white light shot from his body, enveloping both the space ancestral talisman and the faint golden glow. Just as Yin prepared to take him away, the golden light trembled slightly, then unexpectedly separated from the space ancestral talisman and merged into the white glow on its own. What? Lin Dong was momentarily stunned. Junior brother Lin Dong, although I've been protected by the space ancestral talisman all these years, I have been tainted by demonic aura. The ancestral talisman, a divine artifact, fiercely rejects demonic energy. Now, I am no longer fit to possess it. I see your extraordinary talent, bearing multiple ancestral talismans. As Lin Dong stood slightly stunned, a faint, almost fading voice suddenly emerged from within the white glow and reached his ears. Senior brother Zhou Tong. Upon hearing this, Lin Dong quickly spoke up, but the golden light had already dimmed completely and was absorbed by Yin into the ancestral stone. With a slight frown, Lin Dong looked at the space ancestral talisman in his hand. Lin Dong, he's right. He's showing signs of corruption by demonic aura. Although the talisman spirit has been protecting him, the talisman itself still follows its own rules, and forcibly wielding it would harm both sides, Yin remarked. Lin Dong hesitated briefly. Although the talismans were extraordinary, he already had two, which lessened the temptation for him. Moreover, this one belonged to Zhou Tong, and claiming it this way felt somewhat improper. However, hesitation now would only be needless sentimentality, so he nodded and said, I'll hold onto the space ancestral talisman for now. But once senior brother Zhou Tong is purified, I'll return it to him. Do as you wish. And be cautious of those guys from the Yuan sect. I can't say why, but something feels off about them. Yin nodded, then added. Lin Dong's eyes narrowed as he nodded back, storing the space ancestral talisman within his body. He then moved to stand before EngShuanzi and the others, saying, Don't worry. There's still hope for senior brother Zhou Tong. Hearing this, joy finally spread across EngShuanzi and the others' faces. What's next? Little Mink approached, eyes gleaming coldly as he fixed his gaze on the Yuan sect's three giants, his intense killing intent almost tangible. Lin Dong didn't reply, but turned his gaze towards the Yuan sect, shrouded in swirling demonic aura, his own eyes filled with a frosty glare. Heh. As if sensing their gaze, Tian Yuanzi in the sky above the Yuan sect chuckled lightly. What a magnificent clash between dragons and tigers. New talents constantly emerge, Lin Dong. It seems you've even surpassed Zhou Tong. Old dog, your turn is next. Lin Dong stared at Tian Yuanzi, his expression blank. Tian Yuanzi smiled, but his eyes grew darker with a sinister gleam. Glancing at the massive Yuan sect Annihilation Alliance force, he nodded and said, Though you've managed to rescue Zhou Tong, it matters not. He has already served his purpose. And now, prepare to experience a grand banquet of the demonic path. As Tian Yuanzi's words fell, a dark gleam flashed across the eyes of the three giants, and the three of them swiftly formed seals. 3 beams of demonic light shot out from their bodies, stretching from the sky to the earth. Wish. The black demonic light rapidly spread between the heavens and the earth, casting everything into shadow. Cold winds rose, followed by a wave of blood-curdling screams from within the Yuan sect. Everyone watched in horror as the bodies of Yuan sect disciples spontaneously exploded, their blood and flesh merging with the thick demonic aura, surging throughout the land. Boom! As demonic aura surged across the land, the ground below began to crack open, and viscous demonic aura seeped out. Within this aura, some monstrous presence seemed to be slowly emerging from the depths.